I've had conversations with you in the past where you talk about philosophy with a capital P and philosophy
Mhm.
with a lowercase p.
Yeah.
Can you get into chiropractic as a philosophy and then chiropractic philosophy? How would you describe chiropractic philosophy to someone who's really, just getting tapped into chiropractic?
Well, as I mentioned before, I think that chiropractic rests on three pillars, and one of them is philosophy, which is kind of the orientation for where you're coming from, why you're doing what you're doing, kind of the bigger picture. And that is informed by and helps to inform the science, so the study of the body and health, anatomy and physiology, how energy gets expressed through matter. And then the third pillar is the art. So, how do you deliver and practice both the science and the philosophy in conjunction with each other? As far as capital P, lowercase p, I think that was really just more of a distinction between looking at philosophy as a discipline, so something that is in an academic circle, like looking at the love of knowledge or the love of wisdom, and anything from Socrates and Plato and Aristotle on the Western side from the beginning to some of the more Eastern perspectives through Buddhist traditions, Hindu traditions, because every culture has their own philosophy that helps people make sense of the world around them, kind of gives them a story. We've certainly inherited a more Greco-Roman direction, at least in the way that our classical institutions have been set up for formal learning. And what I mean by that is like looking at that influence of Greece and Rome in how we have educated our students. And that's been really helpful in one respect, but it's also been very limiting and narrowing in another one. So chiropractic philosophy to me is really helping people to connect with the big idea. And so that is certainly one of the fundamental tenets of chiropractic philosophy, which is, there is an innate intelligence in, I believe, all living things. And the way that that gets expressed through the form of the body can either be done with efficiency and fluidity and clarity, or there can be interference to that process. And in chiropractic, we call that interference a subluxation, especially if we're talking about it in relationship to the spine. And for me, the way that I practice, I have a bit of a broader relationship to subluxation than some of the really kind of hardline upper cervical dudes and women, um, thinking that subluxation is only at C1, C2. I do think that from a more broad philosophical point of view, the subluxation represents dis-ease in the body. It's the manifestation of interference in the physical form. So it's taking this abstract idea of energy or intelligence and looking at how it connects into and organizes and coordinates biological life. And in chiropractic, one of the main kind of connections and leaps forward that I think DD started and BJ expanded upon was drawing that bridge between saying there is this vitalistic element. So this idea that there is this animating force. And then what DD did was say, not only does it influence the body, but this is how. And the this is how is something that's been written into chiropractic from the beginning. And that's why we talk about the nervous system and the spine. And everything beyond that, I think, is a reflection of those two aspects of the person and of the body. So what is happening with the tone of the central nervous system and its tissues? So both the brain, the spinal cord, the fascial coverings that connect them, so the meninges, the ways that those anchor into the osseous part of the body, the skeletal system, and then how the shape, position, tone, and tension of that system in the deepest layer of the person gets reflected out to the other tissues. When there is something like interference in that system, it can be mechanical, it can be mental emotional, because that's bidirectional. If something is going on in the mind and the emotional body, it will show up in the way that the physical body is presenting. It's the way that people communicate, both to other people and within their own experience. And then the environmental aspect of, you know, what you breathe, what you eat, what you drink, who you talk to, the things that you consume in the big picture are all things that have to be mediated through your senses, through the nervous system, and your ability to adapt and respond or react and shut down. And I think all of that is tied really intricately to what we look at as chiropractors. And so this relationship of the energy and the intelligence and the expression of it through the form is why we look at the spine. The different ways that we look at the spine represent what our philosophical understandings and biases are. But notice at no point in time so far have I talked about pain, because it's not that pain isn't important. Pain is essential. It's an essential driver for change in individuals and in the system as a whole. I think collectively we're experiencing some significant discomfort right now, and that's showing up in people's bodies and vice versa. But it's really about function. It's really about the expression of the life principle through the individual is, I think, ultimately what chiropractic is looking at, and the way that chiropractic can help advance the human condition, because that's fundamentally what its original objective is, what I still think it is, and what I hope it will become.